Rockstar, yeah. Yes.
And what kind of food do you like?
I like traditional Indian food. I'm veg, so I like the spicy
You're a vegetarian,
veg food.
yeah.
Spicy
You're a
vegetarian.
vegan?
No, I'm not a vegan, but
Okay.
spicy vegetarian. So I eat cheese. So, yeah.
So next time if you have any issues pertaining to visa, immigration, and something to do with business with US, you can contact Jeffrey.
Happy to help.
Did you enlighten them about your project on solar energy?
Yes.
Okay. And I know you are keeping a balance over here because you have to keep both Democrat and Congress happy. You can't have your own opinion which might anger them. But nevertheless, it was a very good presentation. Can I have the memento here, please? So this is a strictly vegetarian Indian costume made by Creative Awards, Make in India. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeffrey, for giving a wonderful insight on the immigration policy. Do we have Manisha here? Manisha, has it come? Oh, she hasn't made it. All right. Our next speaker is, you have already seen here at CEO Roundtable panel discussion. Is considered to be the father of Indian homeopathy. He is none other than Dr. Mukesh Batra, one of the founding origins of homeopathy, who wanted to innovate everything and made it possible. Over the last 4 decades, he has made a phenomenal work and a remarkable progress and the breakthrough research which until then was neglected in India. People believed in allopathic medicines. They didn't think that alternative medicines could in fact be so effective and make their living so simple, even when it comes to also chronic diseases. Dr. Mukesh Batra is someone who has ventured into the areas which none of the homeopathic practitioners in India do it. He not only has a huge enterprise spanning over so many cities, but he still tells me that he continues to do research on it. And when it comes to chronic diseases also, he penetrates deep into the areas and he finds remarkable progress in those areas. And today also he has promised us that next 3 to 4 years, he will take Dr. Batra's products in the rural villages. And I don't know how it is going to be happening looking at the present infrastructure that we have. But since he is promising that is going to happen, if that happens, that would be a good news for all of us, because the rural India are the someone who live in villages. These are the real people that matter to us. We don't know, we do know that they have a huge problems. They don't get their health care remedies so fast because government is unresponsive and it is talking in the air. They don't do it possible. It is people like Dr. Mukesh Batra who makes it possible. Can I please invite Dr. Mukesh Batra to have it on the stage and give a presentation which I will not going to tell you. He is going to give a presentation which will make you shiver. The presentation which I have given it to him, he has never presented in any of the forum, and I was skeptical whether he will present this presentation or not. Let us hear it from none other than Dr. Mukesh Batra, please. Give him a huge round of applause.
Thank you very much, Satya. Every medical advertisement that first starts with a disclaimer. And I think before I start my presentation, I also want to start with a disclaimer. And that is that the choice of the words medical mafia in this presentation was not mine, but was Satya's. And I do what Satya asked me to do. So I'm here today to present to you this topic of has medical mafia in recent times hijacked Dr. Samuel Hahnemann's innovations on homeopathy. And I have just about 12 minutes to do this. So I'd like to first start with a question, and that is, have you ever thought of the fact that some of the medicines that you take to actually cure you could actually kill you? just have a look at this. What if I was to tell you that more people died of drug-induced disorders as compared to people who died from accidents, who died from shootouts, and who died from falling? Take a look at this slide. And look at the number of people who die only from drug abuse. It's estimated that in US alone, every day 300 people die of something what is called iatrogenic disorder, which is a drug-induced disorder. Every day, which is equivalent to a Boeing crash. And nobody talks about it, which is why I'm here to tell you a little bit about how the pharma industry works, to what extent is it beneficial and to what extent is it harmful. Pharma drugs are the third largest killing agents after heart attacks and other illnesses. Around 200,000 people every year die of drug-induced disorders. There were more deaths by pharma than by traffic accidents. And there are more deaths due to prescription drugs than there are due to heroin and cocaine combined. So I think the young druggies will be happy to hear this. Let's look at what kind of makes up this new age mafia. Very broadly, this is comprised of two different groups. One is, of course, the medical establishment, and the other is the pharma companies. Let me very quickly run you through a few basic questions on the medical establishment. How many of us have actually enjoyed the hospitality of a hospital long before we really wanted to get out of it? We all know that there are hardly any discharges on the weekend because weekend beds don't get full. Also because doctors are not available over the weekend. How many of us have actually gone to a doctor for something as trivial as a common cold and landed up by doing multiple expensive pathological laboratory tests, sometimes even CT scans and MRIs? How many people do we know who've actually gone to a hospital and got bankrupt? 2 million people in US go bankrupt paying medical bills. Let's come to the other side, which is the pharma side. The first thing is that 1 out of every 8 drug, as per the research that has been done, has found to be ineffective. And therefore, what does this mean? This means that if you look at the cost of these ineffective drugs, it is 1.1 billion US dollars. So taxpayers' money like yours and mine has been spent to promote an inefficient drug. And what does this mean again? It's not that we wasted money, but we've taken something which hasn't helped us at all, and which could have also given us strong side effects. And secondly, if the drugs did not sell in America or in Western countries, they then get dumped into third world countries like India. And therefore, they keep finding new markets to keep pumping in drugs which are not efficient. The FDA did a study in America a few years ago, and they titled a paper called Pills That Don't Work. There were 670 such basic medicines which were found not to be effective. Till today, these medicines haven't been taken off the list. Let's come to what do the pharma industries do to create myths about drugs. There's something called NNT, which is the number needed to treat. So in any kind of research that is done, you need to have a minimum population to get positive results. Through this study, it's found that 80% of all drugs are not effective. For example, the NNT for statins is 60-1. That means 60 patients would have to take statins, which is a medicine which is taken to lower cholesterol and triglyceride, over a period of 5 years, out of which one person would have a chance of not having a heart attack or benefiting from it. That's the 60-1 ratio. Compare this to the benefit that you'd get from 10 minutes of walking every day. It's equivalent. So look at the amount of money that is spent and the kind of research that is done and the benefit that you actually get. Similarly, if you look at antihypertensives, high blood pressure, the ratio is 12:1. For every 12 patients who take a medicine for high blood pressure, one of them will have a side effect, which could vary from anything from skin eruptions to sexual dysfunctions and so on. The third, of course, and we all read it in the newspapers, even in today's newspaper, is antibiotics. How often do we self-treat ourselves? How often are they wrongly given? India today is the world's largest antibiotic misuse country in the world. It has the largest number of patients who have developed drug resistance, which is why today so many people are dying of acute problems. More and more people are dying of malaria, TB, which could easily have been cured earlier because of the indiscriminate use of antibiotics. Because people self-prescribe, they go to chemists. Chemists are doctors today. And we don't have very strong regulation in this country for the use of antibiotics. So what really we are doing today is we have actually created a kind of a pill-popping generation. We tend to believe that because we are taking a pill, it will take care of all our problems. We get that sense of false comfort that because I'm on medication, nothing can go wrong with me. This is far from the truth. Because today, a lot of chronic diseases are lifestyle-induced. And if you don't change lifestyles and continue to drug yourself, you're not going to get the results. We are so dependent today on pills that it's become a part of our lifestyle now. So instead of changing our lifestyle, we have imbibed a lifestyle of popping pills, which makes it worse. Today we think that we can overeat and then take a liver tonic. We think that we can drink till the gills, till we get sozzled, and then take a liver tonic. We can overeat and then take an antacid. And we can even have unprotected sex and take the morning after pill. This sense of comfort that comes from pill popping is not real. And unless people change lifestyles, we will not be able to have a healthy world. So one thing that happens is that the pharma industry spends a lot of money to create misconceptions of how drugs work and how safe are you if you take a particular drug, which is completely untrue. 80% of all trials that are done are funded by pharma. 30% of trials which are negative are not reported. So what is happening is you're spending money to spread untruth. And then what happens after that? Once you do that and you spend money spending untruth, you then try to promote the untruth. And therefore you get drug companies which actually spend a lot of money in promoting false claims rather than on developing drugs. Just as an example, Johnson & Johnson spent $7.5 million in 2013 on sales and marketing and only $8 billion in R&D. So you spend more money, you create falsehood, you promote falsehood, and then you defend falsehood. How do they defend falsehood? If you look at the 20 largest medical suits have amounted to $19 billion, mostly for false claims by the pharma industry. So this is a chain reaction. And this chain reaction needs to be broken. So you create falsehood by spending a lot of money, by doing research which is one-sided. You promote that research by spending a lot of money again, and then you defend that research again. And we all know that lobbying in the pharma industries spends more money than any other industry, more than alcohol, more than tobacco. So this is something that really we should be thinking about very seriously. Obviously, once you've created a strong business model and something that works, then like fashion and art, unbridled greed and overarching profits give rise to fakes. So take this scenario that 80% of the drugs that are produced today are not effective. 10% of the drugs that are produced are fake all over the world. 8.4% of drugs made in India are substandard. And India is the third largest country in counterfeiting drugs. And this is the ones that get caught. The ones that don't get caught are different. They get away with it. So you're now left with 10% of drugs which are actually useful. 80% ineffective, 10% fake, and you're now left with 10% which actually help you. Here, what happens then in the 10% drugs? There's a huge difference between branded and generic drugs. It's almost 200 times. So for the 10% that is useful to you, you'll end up paying 200 times more because of the marketing, branding efforts that the multinational companies do. So a simple thing like a simple medicine for a heart, it would cost you 80 paisa, but a branded medicine would cost you 1,615 rupees per tablet. That's almost 200 times more. So what do then companies do when they have to protect their turf? And when they have a flourishing industry, obviously they follow two methods. One is attack, and the other is hijack. You try to attack anything else that comes within your vicinity, anything that can be competition for you. There are so many examples in business, not necessarily in pharma, but everywhere else as well. We had London Pilsner, a beer company, which was taken over by another company. Today, the brand does not exist. So you buy over competition, and you kill it. So attack is one very strong method of killing competition, anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. In the US, all these people was put out of business. The second is, of course, hijack. If something, when you can't fight them, you join them. These are well-known Ayurvedic preparations, LIV52 and cystone, for urinary problems and for liver problems. And they are prescribed by all allopathic doctors across the country today. And nobody knows the difference. They're not even promoted as homeopathic medicines, as Ayurvedic medicines. So you adapt what is good, and you lose the identity. And you enclose that identity and make that identity as part of your identity. So virtually this is what is hijack. Similarly, there are lots of conventional homeopathic medicines which are today being used as medicines in allopathy. One of them is isosorbide, which is a strong vasodilator for angina patients, which is originally a homeopathic preparation. And there are many others. Belladonna, for example, atropine is used as eye drops for dilation of the pupils. All eye surgeons use it. It comes from homeopathy, more than 250 years ago. So lots of this gets absorbed and then gets promoted as whatever is the establishment at that time. Coming to some of the original innovations that were made during Hahnemann's time. Hahnemann founded homeopathy. He was an MD doctor from Germany, and that was more than 250 years ago. And when he founded homeopathy, which was based on the principles of vaccines, Louis Pasteur, who was the founder of vaccination, was only 8 years old. So again, the entire philosophy of vaccination comes from homeopathy. And it's been taken over by allopathy and by modern medicine. And just look at the market today. It's $33,000 million US and expected to reach almost 60,000 by 2019. Compare this to what homeopathy can do for epidemics. Like I mentioned, the Andhra Pradesh government gave, about 10 years ago, 1 million doses of belladonna, costing just 1 rupee to 10 lakh patients. Not a single one of them developed viral encephalitis. As against this, 4,000 crores was spent for the treatment of Japanese encephalitis in Bihar and UP. So there's no comparison on the cost, there's no comparison on the value, and it therefore needs to be adopted into the government procedures, and there can be a lot of benefit. These are, just to give you an idea, we gave 9,000 plus preventive for swine flu for about 9,000 plus patients across the country, and not a single one of them suffered. And similarly, there are lots of vaccinations which are there, which are fixed. The other area which is, there are a lot of preventive vaccines for chickenpox, for cholera, for flu, like influenzainum, for mumps, parotidininum, and so on and so forth. The other thing that Hahnemann introduced first was the concept of psychosomatic medicine. Homeopathy is mind and body medicine. Today, people are talking about depression. This is Deepika Padukone, who actually came out with the depression that she suffered from publicly, and then drew media attention to the fact that depression today is a very common thing. 1 in 5 women and 1 in 10 men suffer from a major depressive disorder sometime in their life. We've treated hundreds of people, and especially women, who suffer from post-pubertal depression. It is depression which lasts for 6-7 months, sometimes 1 year or 2 years after they've delivered a baby. It's very common also in India. More than 30 million Americans presently are taking antidepressants. And the sale of antidepressants is about $30 billion US dollars. Side effects like nausea, weight gain, fatigue, insomnia are all common side effects. Versus this, homeopathy introduced psychosomatic medicine. He said the mind and body are not different. He said if you get a backache or a cervical pain, it could be because you're stressed. It could be that the tension is giving your muscles getting into a spasm, and because of that, you could be feeling it. So he actually connected the mind and the body together more than 200 years ago. And this is something which is now being discovered, and saying that a lot of diseases today are psychosomatic. I mean, if you have some acidity, it could be because you're stressed. If you can't sleep, it can be because you're anxious, and so on and so forth. A research done a few years ago on depression showed that 58% of patients responded to homeopathy very, very positively. And please understand that this is a very, very, very low cost. So it doesn't cost anything compared to the $13 billion that is spent on antidepressants all over the world. So I'm making a case saying that the world could be saving a lot of money if one was actually to start rethinking the way we start taking our drugs. And all of that could actually be used into really true health and true education of people, and then build a much happier world. Today we talk of designer pills. Homeopathy is bespoke medicine. It's individualistically made for every patient. A homeopathic doctor will ask you 500 questions before he prescribes. We'll take your personality into account. We'll say what you eat, which side you sleep, what you dream, and so on and so forth. So it's been a science which has been much ahead of its time. Similarly, if you look at allergies, the treatment for allergies today, what is it? You put a little bit of, and a little prick test, you find out that there's a reaction, and you take the same thing, and you introduce it in minute doses. This is exactly what homeopathy stands for. And this is exactly the way it treats allergies, by building up immunity against known and unknown allergens. Today we are talking about diet, very important. Hahnemann said during his time that every man's stomach is like his foot. Just like how one shoe cannot fit everybody, there is no concept of a universal diet. Somebody can be allergic to rice, and somebody can be allergic to gluten, somebody to wheat, somebody to apples, and so on and so forth. It's not universal. And therefore, you have to study individual people, and you have to cater to people individually. Homeopathy also introduced nanotechnology, which now we all talk about, and we now say that even in its smallest forms, medicine can be very, very potent. Against all odds, homeopathy is still growing strong. In the last 5 years, it's growing 3 times faster than allopathy. It's already the second largest system of medicine in the world, according to World Health Organization. The global market is around 26,000 crores. Indian market is